that was me cutting it this way. They might want you to cut palm to palm, whatever is best for you, whatever doesn't create any pain for you.
So do I have long layers, is that it?
You have broken layers.
Oh.
You have short layers because of the breakage, so we'll probably need to trim those up. Look down one more time before you finish it.
Don't
Now-
you look in your hand and somebody
Now
say,
you
like
can see
mine?
that line of what I cut before, right? You can see that under there of what I
Mhm.
cut before. I'm just matching up to it. You're always gonna have a guide, and if you ever lose it, don't just cut it, find it again. Drop what you're doing and go back if you need to, re-find the guide, because cutting a whole new one, you might fuck up the entire thing.
So that's your guide for all the way around.
And some people, I could go to the front now that I'm finished with the back, to do the length, but I'm gonna cut the layers in the back. Are you recording me? I didn't know that. I'm using the F word.
It's for us.
Now I'm starting in the very center. I'm gonna pull up about an inch size piece and just see how it's been cut before. I might be able to do something opposite to take out, yeah, if I cut it this way, I can take out some weight, or take out some hair without taking out any weight. So I'm gonna pick this piece up as my guide. Snip about an inch off of that. Now, hold it straight up from where it lives. 90-degree angle with a 45-degree finger angle. I'm pointing down. Now I'm gonna pick up that same piece of hair, but just lower, and lift it up. Now, before I cut all that, I wanna look down here and make sure it's still thick enough down there to cut that much, or it'll thin it out too much. I think it might be too much, so I'm dropping a little bit more into it. Now I can cut whatever's in my fingers still with that finger angle. So if you look at it as I pull it down, now it's just even layers that way, and it goes all the way to the bottom. So now I'm gonna have a guide from that one in the center, and I can use the last sections as a guide too. So now I know that that's about how much I'm dropping out of the bottom, so that we can keep the thickness, and all of this is what I'm gonna cut. So you can see my guide from before, cut up to it, cut that little piece that I dropped. You don't wanna try to fit it all in your hands, it's best to just comb it a couple times and recut it. And sometimes if the layers don't go all the way to the bottom, you kind of check it, so this section's already been cut. You can kind of just a little bit to just blend it in.
It already feels healthier. Isn't that amazing? Just feeling it, knowing that
When your fingers
I've
don't
been
snag
so
as you run through it.
desperate to get a haircut. My girl had a baby.
So I'm moving with my guide. When I cut this piece, I'm standing here because I want my position that this is straight in front of me. And then there's just a little bit more that I can cut into it. But then as you get towards the front, make sure you don't grab any front pieces, and you cut that entirely different, because you don't want to thin out the bottom, because where her ear is, there's not hair, but in the back of her, like right here, there's no hair, but there's hair in the same spot back here. So now I've finished pretty much what I want to do for the layers in the front. I'll just check the bottom of this to make sure they're connected. Some of that might want to go up front, but I think I'm just going to take that. So now I had started in the center, so now I need to just do the opposite side of her head, the other quadrant. Lift it up, see the previous section and previous guide. Lift up that last little piece. Previous section, previous guide. So when I go to the next one, I'm taking a little slice of that last section, so this is my guide, and now I'm taking my next piece of hair. Lift it up. The guide right there.
How are those scissors?
Not for me, because I'm used to other ones, but I could get used to them. They're good scissors. They're nice and sharp. dry hair is harder to cut. Like, so some people will have extra sharp shears to do just dry cuts, and some people will have different ones for wet hair. The dry hair, especially dry coarse hair, is really hard to, not really hard. You can dull your shears.
And my hair's very coarse.
No.
No?
Mm-mm.
What is it?
Medium to fine. So you see how I'm starting to scrunch this stuff right here, like it's bunching up right there? That means I need to drop some of this and scoot back up here so that now you see it's straight. That means I was grabbing too much at a time. And I'll do the same thing to the bottom, and so I'm grabbing like 2 sections at a time here to check that bottom, because that way I won't thin it. Just kind of add a little angling. So sometimes, and when I do a dry cut, because it can look choppy, I'll put in some kind of a smoothing thing and run the blow dryer through it instead of redoing it, or you guys can curler if you want.
That feels so good.
So now the front stuff, now I can match it up with the length of what I did on the back. And I've got my hand on her shoulder, and I'm sliding it down pretty much to her arm and shoulder. There's usually not ever much to come off the front because it's usually finer and thinner. She probably should have some more framing than this because it's all broken there anyway. So you saw what size sections I was taking in the back and the front. I'm kind of gonna swoop around this way because hair on everyone gets thinner right here. And since it's thin right there, I'm gonna drop out a little more to be part of her framing. And I'm going to grab a guide from in the back, and I'm gonna extend all this backwards because this is gonna be longer than when I put it back forward.
Why is that?
Because if you're lifting it up from where it lives, you're cutting exactly what needed to come off.
Mm-hmm.
If you're pulling it backwards, you're taking less, and then drop that bottom out still too. So it might look like I'm cutting more off, but this is just a different way of cutting weight out for especially people that have fried hair and don't want to lose length. This, when she looks in the mirror, she's not going to see that much of a difference, but if she was watching me do this in the mirror, she would think I'm cutting a lot off. So now the framing, there's lots of different ways to do framing, but this is really my favorite. It's a little more tedious by starting at the bottom and going up. And then you just have to keep recombing it and resectioning it. And her framing could go even a little deeper because of how fried it is. I want my scissors to be pointed straight up and down because if I start turning it sideways to make an angle, that's where the shelves come from. I think that was a thumb grip I dropped. Are these side bangs or are they just frame? Okay. So for side bangs, I go the opposite direction. My finger angle is exactly parallel to the parting. It looks like whoever did that last probably did it the same way. So we'll just trim it a little bit.
That's how she did it.
And then you can lift it up and kind of put, you see how it's shorter right here than it is up here. You can slice into it a little bit to texturize it.
That's what she does a lot. My girl loves texture.
I think that needs to be eased up on you though, for now.
I'm trying to get chem shots. My goal of being in beauty school is to get my hair healthy without walking around like Miss Karen.
Cute, I'm gonna sneak at this.
Oh shit, she's got evidence.
We're gonna have to kill you now.
Great.
Sometimes if the hair is like really curly and kinky under here, I ask them to put this ear on this shoulder so I can make sure to not miss any of those hairs down there. So now I'm still keeping my hand like on her shoulder. And you see here, there's like nothing to take. That's the shortest piece right there. There's almost nothing to take. So now I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna swoop out here, make sure I drop down enough so that we don't thin it out. Maybe a little more right there. Make sure I drop enough down out of here so I don't thin it out. And then drag this back to where I have a guide. Got the guide. And you can already see the guide from before.
Looks like you've done this before.
Hmm?
Looks like you've done this before.
This is my first time. So now we'll do the framing. Usually it's easier to do the framing on one side than the other, just depending on how you personally hold your hands. So I'm keeping the back separated because you don't want to create like a circle in the back. So pull that straight down. So my hand is far away from the length. So I'm gonna just go straight up and down, up to my finger, stop, recomb it. Straight up and down, recomb, keep the back out a bit. Sometimes when it's like, when I have to do my own framing, I brush it down and lean forward and just stick the scissors straight up, which would be how you would do fine hair or her hair. So if her hair was straighter, I would have her turn her head like this. I would comb it in a natural fall and I would just start picking at it. So some of this fried stuff in here, I don't want to texturize it too much to thin it, but just to show you guys how that would be, you would fan it out and you can either take it and as soon as the scissors hit the hair, close and zip, close and zip, close and zip, close and zip. To take out just a few of those pieces. Or another texturizing way would be put it in your hands, and I already showed you slicing straight into it, or you can fan it out and slice straight into it. And it looks like you're taking a lot of hair out, but if you look right where it is, you didn't. Do you guys want to curl her, or should we put some smoothing product in and blow dry it with a round brush dry?